Now, many of you will know the Nature Crime Alliance. It's a global multi-sector network that focuses on bringing actors from different sectors together to break silos, deepen collaboration, and share information and expertise. And a key aspect of this is technology. And today we are focusing on one of those technologies, which is geospatial monitoring, and how it is being used to tackle crimes such as illegal logging and illegal mining. Now, in a short while, we'll be hearing from conservation allies who are doing fantastic work with law enforcement partners in Madagascar to safeguard the country's protected areas, often using Global Forest Watch data. Then we'll be heading to Peru to hear from Betty Rubio from the Orpeo organization, who will share insights on how indigenous communities are using this technology to protect their territories. And then we'll look a bit further along the justice process with Bratson Taboya Torres, who is a prosecutor in Peru's Specialized Environmental Bureau, who will talk about how prosecutors are using geospatial monitoring to support their own work. I should note that Bratson unfortunately can't join us here today in person, so we recorded his session earlier, but I can tell you it's well worth a watch. And then we'll be joined by Danger Gomez from Guatemala's National Forest Institute, who are using geospatial data in really innovative ways to protect and conserve tropical forests. But before we begin, it's probably useful if we define what we mean by geospatial monitoring, for those not too familiar with the topic. And so to help us answer that question, it's my great pleasure to welcome Ruth Naguran, who is a Senior Associate at Global Forest Watch at World Resources Institute, who will outline this technology for us and also say a few words about the Global Forest Watch platform. Ruth, thank you for joining us. I'll hand over to you. Thanks.
You look, hello, morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining. And why do we use satellites to monitor forests? Well, there are different reasons. They allow us to cover large areas of territory. They allow us to monitor remote areas, places that are hard to reach. And they also provide us wall-to-wall coverage, so we can see everything, right? In recent years, satellite imagery has become more freely available. And at this time, computing technology has advanced so much that we can analyze and process large amounts of data in relatively short period of time. So next, please. This is how satellite monitoring works. First, we have a satellite that's, flying around the globe, taking pictures, capturing images, and that information is sent to a reception area in the globe where computers process that information to detect vegetation changes, fires, etc. That information then is shared to users in different formats and different avenues, and then the users can take action based on that monitoring information. And so this is basically the general way or workflow of how satellite monitoring works. Next, please. About 10 years ago, the World Resources Institute launched Global Forest Watch, or GFW, to provide the best available data and user-driven tools for monitoring forests on a free, accessible, and easy-to-use platform. We have several satellite monitoring systems. Next, please. Global Forest Watch offers a suite of forest monitoring tools that are designed to increase the knowledge and transparency about forest landscapes, harness the information to mobilize local action by different stakeholders, and support commitments by private sector actors to stop commodity-driven deforestation and manage forests sustainably. So we have different monitoring systems. And Global Forest Watch is not just about providing information, but also making it available in ways that are user-friendly and easy for different these stakeholders to act upon. Next, please. With Global Forest Watch, our users can look at areas that are changing rapidly. We have 3 early warning deforestation alerts provided by the University of Maryland and Wageningen University. And here you can see, the geographic coverage, the resolution, and the frequency these systems are updated. Next, please. With Global Forest Watch, we also monitor long-term land use change, which through our annual tree cover loss, our deforestation monitoring system. And this data set is provided by the University of Maryland, updated yearly, and it's a global coverage with 30 meters resolution. Next, please. We also monitor fires, and this is data coming from the US government, but by NASA, and it has a global coverage. It's updated daily, and the resolution is a little bit coarser, 375 by 375 meters. Every pixel you see is of that size. Next. Beyond forests, we are beginning to identify disturbances in vegetation. This is an area in Peru where you can see how the monitoring system is detecting changes in crops. Next, please. All this monitoring data is available through different platforms. We have the Global Forest Watch main website. Next, please. Globalforestwatch.org, that is the website where users can do on-the-fly analysis, create subscriptions for their areas of interest, compare and contrast with satellite imagery, and create shareable links that they can share through social media or embed in their own websites. For users that have limited connectivity, they can download the alerts and the monitoring data on their mobile applications, where they can not only interact with the data sets, but they can use the navigation system of their mobile application to navigate to the field, the area of interest, and collect information about the causes that are the causes of that change. And for the more technology savvy users, they can also connect directly to our servers and connect and access the data directly to their platforms and embedded in their websites. Next slide, please. To date, we have millions of users. This is the estimate as of December last year, 9.2 million users that are monitoring millions of hectares of forest. And this afternoon and today, as Luke said, we are going to be hearing from users that use not only Global Forest Watch data, but also other data sets to monitor the areas to support enforcement and control activities. Back to you, Luke. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, Ruth. I mean, Global Forest Watch is such a powerful and valuable tool, and we're absolutely delighted to be partnering with GFW on this webinar. Thank you. Okay, let's get into today's program. I should mention that each of our speakers will be taking questions at their end of their individual presentations. So if you have a question, please enter it in the Q&A box, and we will put those to the speakers once they finish their remarks. If you can't see the Q&A box, you can access it via the More button at the bottom of your screen. Okay, I'm very pleased to welcome Caitlin Eschman, who is the Executive Director of Conservation Allies, which is a US-based nonprofit that supports organizations tackling environmental crime on the ground. And alongside funding the International Ranger Awards, which recognizes the tremendous bravery and achievements of those protecting nature around the world, Conservation Allies also work in different geographies to support law enforcement efforts with a particular focus on protected areas. They are a member of the Nature Crime Alliance and are joining us today to share examples and learnings from their work in Madagascar, where geospatial data is central to their activities. And Caitlin's colleague, Paul Salaman, who is the president of Conservation Allies, is also on the call, and he will join the Q&A at the end of the presentation. So Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us, and I hand over to you. Thanks.
Thanks for the introduction, Luke, and hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to walk you through how conservation allies and our partners in Madagascar are using Global Forest Watch, not only as a monitoring tool, but also as the backbone of our entire conservation strategy. Next slide. We'll go one more slide. Okay, so first, a little context. Madagascar is the fourth largest island in the world. It sits about 400 kilometers off the east coast of Africa. 5% of the world's biodiversity is found here, while over 80% of those species are found nowhere else on the planet. But tragically, it has more threatened endemic species than Brazil and Indonesia combined. And since 2015, Global Forest Watch data has been showing us something deeply alarming. Deforestation is accelerating at a rate that is impossible to ignore. Next slide. As of last year, Madagascar has 109 terrestrial protected areas that cover 12% of the country's surface. These protected areas represent some of the last remaining intact forest habitats in Madagascar, and they are under enormous pressure currently. Next slide. The threats driving forest loss are pretty typical. It's illegal logging for timber and charcoal, slash and burn agriculture, which is known as TAVI, and mining. And that's coupled with a population growth at around 2.4% per year. And so what's compounding this problem even further is, of course, funding. Protected area enforcement has been chronically underfunded, with many donors reluctant to support it, preferring to support community development instead. So this results that the rangers on the ground, without resources or backing to actually stop what's happening. Next slide. So when we asked our partners in Madagascar what their biggest challenge was, the answer was pretty consistent: no funding for protection. Protected area rangers are unarmed and outmatched by these organized, armed, illegal loggers. And then on top of that, conservation donors were not linking their grants to any measurable threat reduction in these protected areas. So there really were no mechanisms tying community support dollars to actual decline in deforestation. So something so simple, yet it's being overlooked. Next slide. So I'm going to take a moment now to really talk to you about how our partners' feedback and Global Forest Watch data have changed our own funding strategy over the years. Before 2019, Conservation Allies was funding community development programs around protected areas. But then in 2019, we started looking at Global Forest Watch annual data and saw that deforestation inside those protected areas was increasing despite our support. The community programs were not translating into forest protection. So then in 2020, after speaking with Malagasy organizations, we shifted our funding to support basic ranger patrols inside the protected areas. And then in 2022, we went a step further. We began using Global Forest Watch tree cover loss alerts to actively direct what we now call conservation brigades. So conservation brigades, these are joint operations that include trained, armed law enforcement. So with that, we mean the gendarme, the police, military, and DREAD, which are the forest agents in Madagascar, and they work alongside the partners' staff. So instead of patrolling on predictable schedules, teams are now dispatched in direct response to the satellite detected alerts. So when Global Forest Watch shows a cluster of alerts or a hot spot, the brigades move out. And the Global Forest Watch data is showing us that law enforcement patrols actually do work. So this year, we're funding conservation brigades in 91 protected areas across Madagascar. Next slide. We also decided to change how we measure and report success. Global Forest Watch geospatial data is central to that. We dropped the long kind of technical reports that are commonplace, and we've replaced them with a tight set of matrix. So we're looking at the number of conservation brigades deployed, the number of apprehensions that are happening inside the protected areas, the number of successful prosecutions that are happening, and the impact that this is having on annual tree cover loss data for each protected area. And really, it's this last metric that is the one that matters the most. So we're really looking for this kind of multi-year decreasing trends in annual tree cover loss. For us, this is what real impact looks like. Next slide. Okay, so now let's make this kind of concrete with a case study. Mena Bay and Timena is a protected area in western Madagascar. It's home to the iconic Avenue of Baobabs, as well as Madame Bert's mouse lemur, which is the world's smallest primate. It truly is an irreplaceable protected area. And for much of the last decade, it's been in this free fall. Next slide. Okay. So between 2015 and 2019, average forest loss in Mena Bay exceeded 5% each year. And then by 2020, the protected area had lost 70% of its original forest cover. The Global Forest Watch projections were also alarming. Without intervention, more than 90% of the forest cover would be gone by 2030. This would render the protected area functionally extinct from an ecological standpoint within a decade. Next slide, please. So the video that's playing right now is in Mena Bay, and it's showing the alarming rates of tree cover loss that have happened from 2001 to 2024. And you can really see that the years when deforestation begins to accelerate sharply happen in 2015 to 2020. So this is the power of Global Forest Watch as a monitoring tool. It doesn't just tell you something is wrong, it really shows you exactly where it's happening, when it's happening, and by how much. And on the flip side, it can also show you when your intervention is actually working. Next slide, please. So since 2020, the approach in Mena Bay has changed. Conservation Allies has funded a shift from reactive to proactive monitoring. This means that teams are no longer simply responding to reports of illegal activity after the fact. They're using Global Forest Watch alerts as a first-line detection system. So when Global Forest Watch flags tree cover loss in a specific zone, that triggers a conservation brigade deployment. Drones provide additional aerial surveillance, and then all of this is coordinated through a command center. The result is a system where satellite data, aerial monitoring, and then ground teams are working together in real time. Next slide, please. So this is an image of the command center, and I think it's worth highlighting. It's the first facility of its kind in Madagascar, and it's equipped with solar power, Starlink, internet, and full living facilities for teams in the field. The point of the command center is speed. When a global forest watch alert comes in, the teams can be briefed and then rapidly deployed. Next slide, please. So the command center is strategically located. It's at the center of 4 crossroads, which means that it can effectively cover almost 50% of the entire hardcore area of Mena Bay. And this area is the most ecologically sensitive and also the most threatened zone there. Next slide. And then here's just a quick kind of aerial photo, an image of the command center. And you can see here that there's access to the core zone of Mena Bay from multiple directions. Next slide, please. So the data table here highlights the results, I think, which are quite remarkable. You can see that the number of conservation brigades, the distance they covered, the number of arrests they've made over the last 3 years. But the number that really captures the impact is the illegal pressures observed inside the protected area. By 2025, this number has dropped to just 40 instances. And the number of illegal camps that have been dismantled inside the protected area have fallen from 890 to just 2 last year. But even more importantly, I think, is the forest loss at Mena Bay. Between 2023 to 2024, it fell 58%, which is remarkable and very exciting. Next slide, please. So the success at Mena Bay kind of raised an obvious question for us and for our partners. What can Global Forest Watch tell us about the other protected areas inside Madagascar? And are there other protected areas that are facing similar crises? So this led directly to the production of the Madagascar Protected Area Outlook. Next slide. The Outlook's objective is to create a systematic, transparent, annually updated assessment of forest loss and vulnerability across every terrestrial protected area in Madagascar. And it uses Global Forest Watch data as the foundation. The goal is simple also, to give funders, managers, and policymakers a clear, evidence-based picture of where forests are being protected and where they're still being lost. We've now published 2 editions, one in 2024 and one in 2025, which are written exclusively by Malagasy experts and national organizations. Next slide. The methodology is deliberately simple and replicable. Protected area boundaries come from Madagascar's national database, as well as the World Database on Protected Areas. And then forest loss data comes directly from Global Forest Watch. Next slide. The analyses really looks at 2 main things. First, total forest cover loss compared to the original pre-human baseline. So that gives us a long-term picture of how much has already been lost at each site. Second, forest cover loss trends over time, with a focused look at the most recent 3 years. We really like looking at this trend data because this tells us whether a site is stabilizing, improving, or spiraling. Next slide. To make the Outlook findings immediately intuitive, we borrowed from the IUCN Red List framework. Each protected area is assigned a threat status from least concern to critically endangered based on the forest loss trends. So a forest area labeled critically endangered needs urgent attention. A protected area moving from endangered to vulnerable is making progress. And then a least concern site is one that is considered stable at the moment. Next slide. The comparison between 2024 and 2025 Outlook results is really encouraging. 57 protected areas improved their deforestation rates, and of those, 47 reduced their forest loss, and 10 moved to a lower threat category. And 17 of those sites were also stable. Next slide. So what are the takeaways? First, Global Forest Watch data can help fund protected areas that need it the most. The outlook gives us a really consistent, annually updated ranking of where the crisis is the worst. Second, Global Forest Watch alerts can direct patrol missions in real time, making enforcement more efficient. Third, there's a critical need to fund protected area enforcement. Community support alone without direct protection is sometimes not enough. Global Forest Watch can show us where. And fourth, we need to invest in capacity building so that protected area managers, rangers, and local NGOs can use Global Forest Watch and other geospatial tools themselves. So the goal really is for this to be a locally owned and locally driven initiative. Next slide. Oh, one slide back, sorry. We got ahead of ourselves. Looking ahead in Madagascar, Global Forest Watch data will continue to guide annual publications and direct conservation brigade missions. The methodology is already being applied in Colombia and Panama, where national outlooks are currently underway. And then in September 2027, the World Parks Congress will host a dedicated outlook session, as well as the IUCN International Ranger Award. So it's going to be a major opportunity to bring this Global Forest Watch model to a global audience. And then to everyone on this call, if your organization works in protected areas, we really encourage you to explore using Global Forest Watch data to guide your own actions and assess your impact. And we'd love to connect with you who want to explore that more. And then next slide. I think we're at the end. Yes. All right. So lastly, I just want to thank the World Resources Institute and Global Forest Watch for hosting this event alongside the Nature Crime Alliance, of which Conservation Allies is a proud new member. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Very comprehensive and very interesting, and I hope very useful for people on this call. And based on the Q&A, I can see we have been very efficient in answering questions in the chat, but I will just put a couple to you that haven't been answered just yet. And then Paul Salomon, President of Conservation Allies, you are welcome to join this conversation as well. But I've got a question here from Monica Sands, who is asking about the tactics of illegal loggers. So she says, in general, is it more common for illegal loggers to set up camps in the protected areas, as your table suggests, or to carry out more hit and run type logging? And do you think their tactics will change in response to the more effective brigades driven by the work that you're doing? Thanks.
So I can answer that. It's variable, but generally the logging in Madagascar is done through camps because they're using axes and machetes. So it's a much more progressive. It takes longer. So they're in protected areas for weeks at a time. But that allows us a chance to go in there and capture them in the act. So that is helpful.
Great, and thank you. And then moving on, this is obviously really effective, and it seems to be working very well in Madagascar. Do you think similar tactics or approaches are being developed in other geographies? And is there anything that Conservation Allies is doing to support this work in other countries?
Yeah, so we've just launched our Conservation Action Fund for Africa, and that's on our website. I might drop it in a link, or maybe Caitlin can, but basically we're expanding this to other countries in Africa, specifically targeting protected areas in need of help that are through Global Forest Watch demonstrating actual significant deforestation loss. In other words, there's big challenges, they need to be addressed, and we're looking for partners that can help address that through enforcement and also working with the community. And I should just mention as well, on the previous question, tactics have changed as enforcement has strengthened in protected areas. The the illegal activities have shifted to at nighttime. So a lot of our patrols are now at night. To address that, we're using more tracking and more sophisticated technology in addition. But the fact is, when a tree is cut down or a bunch of trees are cut down, that's highlighted by Global Forest Watch through the alerts, and it allows us to react. And the fact that our presence is even there in that area where they're logging, that scares them off. So it's actually a big deterrent. So yeah, big shout out and thanks to Global Forest Watch.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, GFW is really a special resource. We are kind of over time, but there is just one more question, very briefly, that I'd like to ask from the chat, which is the role of like the organizers behind these crimes. So when you undertake these operations, these patrols, and you catch the loggers, how much are you kind of disrupting or getting at the organized networks behind these offences?
Yeah, it's hard to know. It's hard to get to the people at the top, but we've even gotten to families of generals in the military and to significant to politicians. We've gone up there, and the fact is that the enforcement has, more than anything, given new respect to protected areas where there was nothing before. Now local people are actually respecting it, and we're working with them with community projects in addition. But now it's much harder, and they're kind of stepping back and not undertaking those activities as much. The pressure's still there, but I think that we've gotten control of it, and that's shown by the Global Forest Watch annual assessment of forest loss, where we've seen these consistent declines, and we hope to sustain that.
Great, thank you very much. Look, we've had so many questions just come in late in the chat. We will try and take these offline and reply in the chat, or if not, perhaps we can do so over email. But I do have to move on because we've got 3 more sessions to go. But look, Caitlin, Paul, thank you so much for your time today, and I really appreciate you sharing your insights with us. And keep up the great work. We're a huge fan. Okay, it's time to turn our focus to Peru. And I'm so pleased to welcome Betty Rubio, who is the Technology Transfer Specialist with the Organization of Indigenous Peoples of the East in Peru, also known as OPIO, who is going to be sharing her insights on using geospatial monitoring to protect community territories in Peru. So Betty, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we're going to be conducting the remainder of this session in Spanish. So please make sure you are in your preferred language room using the globe icon, because the rest of the session will be in Spanish. And to moderate the next few sessions, I'm going to welcome back Ruth from Global Forest Watch, who is going to kick off proceedings with Betty. Ruth, over to you. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Luke. Y
Thank you very much, Luke.
vamos a entrar en la parte 2
And we
del
will start
seminario,
with the second portion of this
utilizando
webinar.
datos
We will be
geoespaciales
using
para
geospatial
apoyar
data
el monitoreo
in order to
territorial.
support
Como dijo Luke,
land
vamos
monitoring. And as Luke said
escuchar de Betty
before,
Rubio.
we
Ella,
will
trabaja
hear
con
from
Orpio,
Betty Rubio. She's
lo comentó,
working
pero
with
Betty tiene
Orpio,
más de 10 años de
but Betty
experiencia, no
is
solo
having more than 10
monitoreando
years of
territorios, sino también
experience, not only
entrenando
monitoring territories, but
a
also
otros
training
monitores indígenas.
other
Así que,
indigenous monitors
te
in
cedo la
the
palabra. Adelante,
Peruvian
gracias por estar con
land.
nosotros.
Betty, please go ahead.
Betty, ¿nos escuchas?
Are you able to hear us?
Muy buenos días
Yes, thank you very much and good morning.
todos y gracias por la participación
Thank you for having me,
que me dan y por brindarme este espacio de poder
and
compartir
thank you for giving me this
experiencia
space to
desde
share my
Perú.
experience
Soy
in
Betty Rubio
Peru. My
Padilla,
name
soy
is
especialista en transferencia
Betty Rubio
tecnológica
Padilla.
del
I'm
pueblo
specialist
Quichua, que
in
está en Loreto,
technology transfer. I'm from the
departamento de Perú y
Quichua
Ecuador.
population in Loreto, that
Soy
is
de la
in
Federación
the
Coconado,
borderline with Ecuador. I'm from the
pasamos a la
Orfeo Federation. Please next.
lámina. Ya. En esta lámina, es otra lámina.
No, let's go to the previous slide, this one. No, yes, this one.
En esta lámina es básicamente
Here,
parte de mi historia, lo
this
que
is part
yo
of my
como
story.
mujer indígena vengo
What
realizando
I,
por
as an
de
indigenous
monitoreo.
woman,
Ya
have been
por una parte
doing
de
with
10
my
años,
monitoring work almost
¿no?
for 10 years.
Bueno, yo inicié siendo monitora en mi
I started
comunidad,
being,
luego fui
being
presidenta de la
monitoring my community. I
federación,
was
fui
the president of the
entrenadora y
federation. I
hoy
was
soy
trainer,
especialista,
and
¿no?
today I am
Entonces, yo
specialist.
capacité entre
So
hombres y
I am
mujeres de
training
diferentes
women and
pueblos
men
como
from different
ticunas,
populations
yaguas,
like
quichuas,
Ticuna,
¿no?
Yaguas,
En diferentes
Quichuas
lugares.
in different places.
Entonces, es una experiencia
So
bastante importante
this
para
is
mí
a really
porque
important experience for
así
me
de esa
because
manera he podido conocer a diferentes pueblos también.
that way I have been able to meet different
Pasamos a la siguiente
populations
lámina.
also. Let's go to the next slide, please.
Ya, en esta, este es un paisaje que
This
está
is the
mostrando lo que
landscape
decía
that
del
where
monitoreo,
we are
¿no?
having some
Acá
intervention.
podemos mostrar,
Here we
ustedes
are
pueden
able to show
observar que el corredor está desde la frontera entre Perú
the
y Ecuador.
corridor is in the
Tenemos la
borderline between
frontera,
Peru and
la
Ecuador,
frontera que es con
and
Brasil
we
y Colombia.
go to the triple borderline,
Ahorita
which is
justamente
Colombia,
estoy en
Peru, and
la
Brazil,
frontera
and Peru, sorry.
número 3 que
Today
ustedes ven ahí.
I am
Estoy
in the
en
number
el territorio
3 that
Macés.
you are able to see, which is
Acá
the
estoy haciendo mi
Maxes
presentación.
territory. I am
Estamos
actually doing my
Perú, Brasil.
presentation here.
Entonces, un corredor
Then we go in
ya
Peru
venimos
and Brazil,
trabajando
and
por
this is a
varios
corridor
años,
where we
¿no?
have been working for
Realmente
several
llevamos
years. Um,
casi 10 años
we
trabajando,
have been working for this,
¿no?
as I said before, for
Nuestro
10 years.
trabajo es bastante interesante y
Our
ahorita
work is really
que venimos
interesting,
capacitando, ¿no?
and we have been training
Nosotros
a lot of people.
también hemos gracias a Global Forest Watch que nosotros venimos de
Also, we have been
bosques
working with Global
solo en
Forest
territorios
Watch
indígenas.
only in
Pasamos a la
indigenous
otra.
territories. Let's go to the next one.
Hola. Gracias. Este es el sistema de monitoreo
This is the
que
monitoring
nosotros venimos
system
trabajando,
that
¿no?
we are working with.
Nosotros lo que hacemos primero, lo que descargamos la
First,
información,
we download the
¿no?
information,
Geoespacial, también gracias a Global
geospatial
Forest Watch, hemos
information
aprendido, ¿no? A utilizar estas herramientas.
from
Muchas veces
Global Forest Watch, and we
estas
have learned how to use
herramientas han sido
tools. So
diseñadas
many
para
times
usar
these
en
tools
grandes
have
ciudades.
been
Nosotros como
designed to be
pueblos
used in big
indígenas
cities.
utilizamos
However, as indigenous
estos territorios,
populations, we
¿no?
use
Entonces
it
lo
in
aplicamos
our own populations,
con
and we apply
descargando la
this
información, ¿no? Esta es
by
información
downloading
pues descargada
information. And
pues
this is information
una
that
computadora.
is downloaded
Luego de la
in a
computadora
computer.
lo pasamos
From the computer,
a
we
un
send it
celular,
to a mobile
¿no? Ahí
device.
está la aplicación del Global Forest Watch,
We have a Global Forest
el
Watch
Opus
app.
Map que nosotros
We have
utilizamos,
the
¿no? Nuestras alertas GLAD que
Opus map we use,
pasamos a
our GLAD
nuestros
alerts
smartphones,
also
¿no? También
that are
lo
linked to the
pasamos
smartphones, and
en
then
mapas para nosotros,
we translate everything to
en
maps.
USB para nosotros poder llevar esa
So we are
información
able to
hacia
take
los
this
monitores, ¿no?
information to
Para que se
monitors through
hacer
a USB, so they are able to work with it.
trabajo de vigilancia dentro de los territorios.
And they are
Entonces,
able to
nosotros
surveil
presentamos las
different
comunidades,
territories.
¿no?
And this is what we present
En
to
un
different
inicio de año
communities.
hemos podido eh, ver que el monitoreo
We have
es tan
seen at the beginning of
necesario.
the year that
Sí, hola.
Sí, Betty, disculpa que te interrumpa,
Betty,
pero se
I'm
está cortando un
sorry to
poco la
interrupt you, but
comunicación.
you
No
are
sé
being cut.
si apagando tu cámara sea
Maybe you are
más
able to turn down your video.
estable. Gracias, disculpa.
I'm sorry. Please go on.
Ya. Entonces, lo que les estaba diciendo,
So
¿no?
I
Que
was
este
saying
sistema de
that
monitoreo que
this
nosotros venimos
monitoring system
realizando
that
dentro de
we
nuestros
have
territorios
been
indígenas, pues ha sido medido
working
por la
with in
Universidad de
our
Columbia, ¿no?
indigenous
Que un
territories has been measured in the
50% ha
Colombian
reducido
University,
la
that it has
deforestación
been
en un
reduced
primer año.
50% the
Y
deforestation
después
in
de
claims,
años ha ido
and in
reduciendo hasta el
different years,
80%.
it has been
Entonces,
reduced
quiere
almost
decir que
80%. It means
nuestro
that
trabajo de monitoreo
our
iba teniendo
monitoring effort is
resultados,
having
¿no?
results actually
En los años que venimos realizando.
in the years
Ahora,
that we are been working now.
bueno, pasamos a la
So let's
siguiente
go to
lámina.
the next slide, please.
Ya. El monitoreo geoespacial, ¿no? Lo que nosotros, a nosotros
Geospatial monitoring.
nos ha ayudado
This is
nos ha
what
ayudado
has
mucho en
helped
el
us
sentido que sobre nuestras titulaciones, ¿no? Donde que
a lot
nos ha permitido que los
and
procesos
has
de
allowed
titulación,
us that this
¿no? Ha
processes
tenido un avance con el autolideramiento
to have an
que
advance
han
with
hecho ya los
different
monitores.
leaders
Este
from
trabajo ha
monitors, and
permitido
this work has
que los
allowed
procesos
us
de titulación
to
sean más rápidos,
have these
eficientes y
faster
económicos,
processes and more
porque,
efficient and also more
porque las
economic because
comunidades ya contaban con información,
communities
¿no?
already had
Esta
information
información se les
before.
brindó a las
And
autoridades
this
como
information
los
was given
responsables
to
de la disciplina,
authorities,
¿no? Entonces lo que ellos hicieron solamente
and
era
what they
validar
did only was to validate information.
esta información. Esto a nosotros no los hitos, solucionando los conflictos internos,
We have
ya,
been solving internal
que venían dando
conflicts
muchas veces en las comunidades.
many times in the
Entonces,
communities.
con todo este avance,
So with
los
all these
resultados, los
advanced
procesos de titulación ya pues son
results
más
and
eficientes,
processes are
menos
more
costosos
efficient,
y en menos
less
tiempo.
costly,
Hay
and
comunidades que han venido
less time
solicitando
consuming.
sus
There are
destinos en
communities
30,
that
40
are
años que no
requesting
lograban, y con el
different
proceso
processes
de
and
monitoreo,
they weren't
esto se
able
hace
to
en
get
más
them.
corto
And with the
tiempo.
monitoring
Es
process,
importante
this is
también
made in a
que nuestros
very
territorios
short
estén
time.
titulados,
This
así
is
para
allowing
poder
us, our
cualquier
territories are having a
amenaza,
protection in
¿no?
order to block
que se dan muchas
threats
veces en nuestros territorios.
that we have in territories.
Pasamos a la siguiente
Let's
lámina.
go to the next slide, please.
En esta lámina que podemos observar, esto a
Here,
nosotros nos ayuda a planificar.
here we are
¿no?
able to
Nos ayuda a
see this,
planificar
the different
nuestro,
points, and we are able to plan
nuestras actividades de monitoreo. Porque si
our
bien es
monitoring
cierto,
activities.
nosotros podemos ver los colores fucsia,
We are
¿no?
able to
Estos son
see
unas grandes
different
amenazas
colors.
que se
And
estaría
this
acercando
pink
a nuestros
color is a
territorios.
threat
Entonces
that is
nosotros lo que
approaching
hacemos
our
es,
area.
podemos
So what we are doing right now is
ver de qué
to
manera
see
hacer que estas amenazas no
how
ingresen a
those
nuestros
threats are not
territorios.
coming in
Sería
our
planificar
area.
mejor y ordenar mejor nuestro territorio.
We are planning and ordering
Pasamos a la
better our area.
siguiente
Let's go to
lámina.
the next slide, please.
Siguiente.
Next.
Siguiente lámina, por favor.
Next, please.
Ya. Este es una lámina bastante interesante,
This
¿no?
slide is
Sobre
really
los desastres
interesting. This
naturales
is
que se dan
about natural disasters
en
that
estos
we
años,
have
¿no?
in those years
Con el cambio climático.
because of climate
Entonces,
change.
a nosotros como
So,
monitores
as
nos ayuda
monitors,
también de
this
una
is
manera
really helpful
prevenir de los delitos
in order to
ambientales,
prevent
¿no? ¿En qué sentido?
environmental
No solamente puede
crimes.
ser no solamente puede ser solamente en sequía. También
This is
puede
not
ser en las
only in
inundaciones. Nos
time
ayuda a
of
planificar, por
floods,
ejemplo,
but
en
also
tiempo de
different,
invierno. Los
let's
que
say
están en
winter time.
territorios muy inundables
People that are
pueden
in very flooded
subir
areas are able to
alturas, ¿no? Donde que no
go
se va a afectar
to
el medio
higher
ambiente.
areas that
Pero
won't
también
be
en la lámina
affected.
2, por
But
ejemplo,
also
es
in
una lámina
slide
donde que
2, this is,
nos muestra
we are
que
able to see
hace
that
poco una de nuestras comunidades socias ha sido afectada por
one of our partners
por
communities
ese
have
desastre,
been
¿no?
affected
Que
because
son
of
los
a
combustibles
disaster,
naturales,
and
por
those are
ejemplo,
natural fuels, for example,
las hojas secas, las ramas secas,
dry
¿no? Que
leaves
provocan incendios. Entonces, nosotros también lo que estamos haciendo es sensibilizamos
that are
a
provoking
la
fires,
comunidad
and we are
para que
in
no
the
hagan
same way
cultivos cerca
making the population to
a estos
sensitize not to
combustibles,
have
¿no?
their
que
crops
están
closer
provocando
to
el
this
incendio. Más bien
fuel that is
prevenir de
provoking
estos
fire.
para
So
que otros
we are
la misma
preventing
comunidad no se
so the
vuelva a
same
afectar.
community is not affected.
Pasamos a la siguiente lámina.
So moving on to the next slide.
Esta lámina es
So this slide
una lámina muy importante para nosotros, ¿no?
is
Donde que
very
nosotros
important
nos
for
ayuda a
us because
prevenir los
it
delitos
helps us
ambientales.
prevent
Si bien
any
es
type of
cierto, estamos
environmental
viendo acá,
crimes.
¿no? Lo que es
It's
una
true that we get to see
draga,
here
lo que los monitores están presentando,
while the
información a
monitors
la
are
autoridad. Esta es una intervención
presenting all the
fiscal que se hizo con
information to the
información
authorities,
ya
and this is a fiscal
recopilada de los
intervention that
monitores,
was done
¿no?
with the information collected
Por
by the
ejemplo, no
monitors.
solamente puede ser una
For
draga,
instance, not
puede ser una
only can
invasión de
it be
territorio,
in
puede ser
the dredger, but it can also
tala
be an invasion to the territory, or it
ilegal,
can be
puede ser
illegal logging. It can also be
discriminado, son muchas
hunting
actividades que
and so
podría
forth.
hacer
And there are
daño
a
a
lot
nuestro
of
territorio.
activities that can harm our
Entonces,
territories.
todo
So
esto
all of
recopilan la
this
información los
is where
monitores y
they
brindan a las
collect
autoridades,
the
¿no?
information and they
Para que
provide
ellos
it to
puedan
the
tomar una
authorities so
acción
that they
inmediata,
can
con
take immediate
precisión,
actions with
¿no? Y no
precision,
tengan dificultades
and so
en
they
la
don't have
intervención que
any
ellos puedan
difficulties in the
realizar.
interventions that they may be carrying out.
Pasamos a la siguiente lámina.
Moving on to the next slide, please.
Ya. Esta lámina también
So
son
this
otros
slide
resultados, ¿no?
are
Que nos
also
a
other
nosotros nos
results
ayuda, por
that
ejemplo,
help
a
us, for instance,
combatir lo
to
que es la tala,
fight
¿no? La tala no
the
autorizada.
illegal
Acá
logging.
estamos viendo que los monitores
Here
de
we get
igual
to
manera
see that the
están
monitors
mostrando el
are
mapa,
also showing the
están
map.
enseñando a través de los
They
celulares,
are
¿no? Lo
also
que
showing
toman
through
las
their
evidencias
smartphones
y
that
así
they are
puedan
collecting the evidence
las autoridades puedan
so the authorities
actuar, ¿no?
can
Inmediatamente. Esta
act
es información muchas
immediately.
veces nosotros
So
presentamos
this
por ejemplo
information
como
most of the
a la
time
OSI,
is something that we
a la
present
JERFOR,
to
¿no?
Herford,
La
Oisenfo,
fiscalía,
and to the
¿no? Para
prosecutor's
que, como
office,
prevención, ¿no? Para que las
just as
autoridades puedan tomar
prevention,
acciones
so that
inmediatas.
the
Muchas de
authorities can
nuestras
take immediate
comunidades han sido
actions.
afectadas
Most of
por
our
esta
communities have been
actividad.
affected by this
Entonces,
activity,
presentamos a las
and therefore
autoridades para que
we
ellos ya puedan
present it to the authorities
ver de qué manera tomar
so they
cartas en el
can
asunto.
see how can they
Igual,
take
pasamos a
some
la otra lámina.
actions. Moving on to the next slide, please.
En esta lámina lo que nosotros
So in this
estamos
slide,
viendo es,
what
¿no?
we are seeing
¿Cómo hacemos nosotros, por ejemplo, nuestro censo
is,
forestal?
for
A
instance,
través
how
del
do we do
monitoreo
our forest
nos
census?
permite hacer nuestro censo
Through the
forestal, ¿no? Nos
monitoring,
permite
we
hacer
can
el
do
ordenamiento
a
territorial,
forest
¿no?
census
Hacer nuestra planificación
and to do our planning and
cómo
also
nosotros vamos a
do
utilizar
our
nuestros
land use planning
territorios,
and
¿no?
seeing
Para
how
no
are we
estar
going to be
afectando
using our
más a futuro
territories so that we do
nuestro
not
bosque.
affect our
Entonces,
forest
todo esto
anymore.
incluso
So
podemos ver, ¿no? Por
we
qué
can
zonas
even see
serían los riesgos,
what are the
¿no? De
areas that are
afectación, ¿no? Si son por
at
quebradas,
risk
vértices
of
en este
being
territorio
affected
que
because of having
estaría cercano
dredgers,
la
or
caminata.
where
Entonces,
can
como
we
les
have some
decía, nos
threats in
ayuda
the
a planificar
territories. So as I
mejor
was mentioning, it
el
helps us to
territorio,
better plan
cómo lo vamos a dar
the
un buen
land.
uso, ¿no?
How are we going to
Sobre
be giving a good use, or making a good use of it
nuestra actividad que vamos a desarrollar
in
en
the
cada
activity
año.
that we will be developing every
Bueno,
year.
eso sería lo que
So
quería
that's
compartirles
what
con
I wanted to
ustedes.
share with all of you.
Gracias
And well,
por
thank you
escucharme.
so much for hearing
Muchas
me.
gracias, Betty,
Well, thank you
por
so
tu
much,
presentación.
Betty. Thank you
Siempre
for your presentation.
tengo la fortuna de conocerte
I'm
de poco tiempo y
always, I mean,
siempre
I've
me
been
inspira escucharte
fortunate
y,
to
y
know
aprender de tu
you for several years,
experiencia
and it's always
y
exciting
hoy
to hear
cómo
you and to
has
learn your experience on the
evolucionado y
field and
crecido en
the
este
way you have
manejo
evolved
y el
and
uso
grown,
de los datos de monitoreo.
and also with the use of
Estamos un poquito
monitoring data.
apretados de
So
tiempo,
we're a little bit
eh,
behind with regards to
pero
time.
tengo ahí una
However, I
pregunta.
do have a
eh,
question.
Tengo muchas preguntas, pero no tengo
I
mucho
have a lot of
tiempo. Hay
questions.
una pregunta
Unfortunately,
de
we don't have a
Alajes
lot
que
of
dice,
time. So we have a
¿existe
question from
alguna relación
Alajes, and
entre
it
su
says,
trabajo
is there a
utilizando la
relationship between
tecnología
your work
Global
using
Forest Watch y la
the
iniciativa
Global
Mochila
Forest
Forestal
Watch
implementada por CIFOR
um,
en Perú?
and
Betty, no
also
sé
the
si
Mochila
puedes comentar un
Forestal
poco cómo
implemented? But Betty, can you
han
tell us a
interactuado
little
con
bit about
o
how you've
trabajado
been
con la Mochila
interacted, or
Forestal
how you've
y
been working
también
with the Mochila Forestal?
Sí,
Yes.
Nosotros también nos hemos
Well,
capacitado en tema de la
we
mochila
also
forestal, ¿no?
have
Para
gotten trained in
trabajar
terms of the mochila forestal
articuladamente con pues, lo que es OSINFOR, ¿no? Hemos
or the
capacitado
forest
también a los
backpack.
monitores
And we
en
have
el tema de la
also
mochila forestal
trained the monitors in terms
para
of the
presentar
forestry
y
backpack in
evidenciar,
order
¿no?
to
De muchos
present and to
casos que se
show
venían dando en
evidence of a
estos
lot of
territorios.
cases that were
Muchas de
happening
nuestras
in these
comunidades han
territories.
sido
A
endeudadas,
lot of
pues,
our communities have
solamente por
become indebted
trabajos administrativos que se
only
habían
for
hecho, ¿no?
administrative work that had been
Pero sin
done.
embargo, con el trabajo de
However,
monitoreo,
with the
podemos
monitoring
mostrar
work,
a las autoridades
we can
que
show the
muchos de estos delitos
authorities that most of these
cometido
felonies
erróneamente,
have
porque nuestros
been
recursos han estado
mistakenly happened
en el
because
territorio, no han salido
these
de nuestro
resources
territorio,
have been in the
entonces no era por
territory. They
falta de
have not
información
left the
que,
territory, so probably it
que se
was
daba,
because of a
¿no?
lack of
En estos
information that
momentos.
this happened in
Muchas
that
gracias,
moment.
Betty.
Well, thank you
Y
so
bueno,
much,
una última
Betty.
pregunta
And
breve
well,
nada
a
más.
final question very
Daniela te está
briefly.
preguntando qué
Daniela
aplicaciones
Belit is
recreativos
asking
usan los
what
monitores
applications do monitors
en el campo.
use
Si
on
se
the
lo puedes
field.
nombrarnos.
Can you please
Mira,
just name them?
estamos usando el Global Forest
Sure.
Watch
We're
y el
using
Lotus
Global
Map Pro.
Forest Watch and Lotus Map
Muchísimas
Pro.
gracias, Betty.
Thank you so
Gracias
much,
por
Betty. Thank you so much for
presentación
your
y por tu tiempo.
presentation, and thank you
Felicidades
for
por
your
todo el
time, and
trabajo que han hecho.
congratulations for all the
Y
work
bueno,
you've been doing.
Gracias a
eh,
ustedes.
Well, thank you.
gracias. Y bueno, vamos a
And
seguir
well,
avanzando.
now let's move
Ahora
on.
vamos a escuchar.
And now we will hear.
Un momentito.
Hold on just a second.
Vamos a escuchar
We will hear
la experiencia del Dr. Bradson
the
Saboya
experience of
Torres,
Dr.
que
Bradson
es
Saboya Torres,
fiscal especializado en
who
delitos
is
ambientales en el
the
Perú.
adjunct provincial
Desafortunadamente, el Dr.
prosecutor
Bradson no pudo estar
specialized
con
Bureau
nosotros, pero
of
tenemos
Environmental Crimes of
una
Peru.
grabación que
Unfortunately,
vamos
he was not able to join us,
a
but we
poner ahora
have a
mismo.
recording that we
Y
will be playing right now.
él no está aquí para
He
responder
is not
preguntas, pero
here
si
to
tienen
answer any
ustedes preguntas
questions. However, if you
específicas sobre su
have any
trabajo, su
specific questions
presentación, bueno,
about
las
his
puede
work and
poner
his
en el chat y
presentation, you can
nosotros
just
vamos a
put them on the
comunicarnos con
chat
el Dr.
and we'll get in
Bradson.
touch with Dr. Bradson.
Adelante,
So
Isabela,
please
por
go
favor.
ahead, Isabella, with the
Gracias.
recording. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to welcome you all and to start my presentation with regards to the use of satellite images and some tools and mobile applications for environmental crime. So my presentation corresponds to the way we have been working in the prosecutor's office with regards to the investigation about illegal mining and illegal crime and others that are part of our area in the Amazon. So the slides I will be presenting right now have some videos and pictures. And the first slide corresponds to the interdiction of the machinery in the basin of Nanay. And these are the type of interventions that we do where we actually proceed to do the search of this brain artifacts. And first of all, in order to tell you about how we start in the Environmental Prosecutor's Office in 2019, we first started working in this fiscal office in order to do the search of information and the locations of this machinery for illegal mining and artifacts. And the one that corresponds the most is the basin of the Nanay River. We are continuing with this, but in a lower proportion, and we are using human sources. They're people that collaborate with us in order to collect information, especially fishermen who, through other resources like fuel and food that are moving through the basin, what they were doing is making a recording of the locations in the areas that they were familiar with, for instance, the quebradas. And once they get that information regarding the number number of dredgers that they would find, they would communicate that, or we would actually put it into a map in order to show the referential coordinates. And we would start with the interdiction operation that can help us be effective during the development of these activities. So once we've been having more contact with our work, we have been able to have the support of the Air Force as well as other partners or entities like CERNAM that have actually funded some air recognition, and we can see some of the coordinates where we have recorded this activities that the prosecutors were doing financed by these entities, and we would do the same procedure. We would collect the information and then we would execute the prohibition operation, and we would actually get some sort of a search radios in order to see the resources in terms of how much fuel we would use, time we would spend there. And this is something really important when we plan a prohibition activity. These are the images that we were able to get through this aerial surveys, and the dredgers that were operating and that were getting gold and so forth. And we would do this with the support of an NGO that is called ACA. This is an NGO that was providing us with satellite information through the reports like the ones that are shown on the slide. These reports will give us information regarding the dates of the registry. For instance, this report pertains of January 5th of 2025, mentioned the type of satellite that was used, the sensor that was used, the area where the registry or the recording had been done, and it would also point out the coverage, if it was a partial coverage, it was a full coverage, amongst other data that were given to us. And what was most important to us, additionally to this, is the coordinates of the location, as you can see on the right-hand side of the number of dredges, and also the coordinates. So through this, we can actually do the recording of the search. Additionally to this, the report would include also a range of search or range of area where the recording of the satellite had been done. And as some reference images, we have the images of the boats with the river artifacts operating in the areas where we're interested of doing the prohibition activities. As you can see, one of them pertains to December of 2024 and the other one to January 2025, where we have been able to do these recordings. So what we're very interested in showing you is that throughout this prohibition actions, while we are moving, it's very difficult for us to really know where we're at, or also if there are any streams that we have recorded on the map that we have in order to do the activity. So in that search, we really need to have other tools that can help us identify areas of access. As you can see on the video, and I'm going to lower the volume a little bit. You can see on the video, we can see only the river and the vegetation on both sides, and we cannot really see if there are any entry areas, any kind of streams or any other entry so that we can go and check out the area. We could also do this through drones, but it would take us a little bit longer. However, the tools that we use is how we can move through some air images, and we can see how these boats are moving, and we have nothing else to see but the river and the vegetation on both sides. We don't have access to envisioning deeper, so to speak, in the search areas. So in order to find these interest areas. As we can see on the slide that I just showed you, this is the way how we see the river and the ways we can find the streams and the river artifacts that are hidden. And we need to try to find the interest areas, because sometimes with the coordinates that we have found, not all the time will we find these river artifacts, because these are mobile artifacts that they can move with other boats that are pushing them, and they are hiding them in different areas to the ones where we have recorded the coordinates. As you can see on the picture, we have an area where we did a recording through an air survey. And in this opportunity, the enforcement authorities were moving in the river. In the meantime, that we were also recording the location of the dredgers. It's a little bit more expensive to do this type of operations using the vessels from the Navy, but it's also very effective. So we can see the location of these dredgers that are actually hidden. And obviously, when you're sailing, you won't be able to find them unless you're moving past by them. So we need to use drones or the information that we have through the apps in order to go into the search areas, in this case, in this area that we have at site. I don't know if we can also see this on the upper side of the dredger. I'm gonna be try to point it out with a pointer. These boats, most of them have satellite internet from Starlink, and in this way they can communicate continuously. They can even know our location through the informants that they also have throughout the development of this type of operations. Now, on the next slide, we will get to see some air images about how they hide them and how they try to hide their river artifacts that are actually very expensive for the activity. Generally, a dredger like this costs between 80,000 to 100,000 sols. So they need to protect their illegal resources, so to speak. Now, the app that I was telling you about, that as a prosecutor specialized in environmental issues, is Alpine Quest. And while being on the field, once we have downloaded the satellite images and throughout the the tour on the field, I can open up the app and I can zoom in the image in order to see the area that I'm in, so that I can even track my recording or even see the areas that we can access to. And as I was mentioning, through accessing through a lake or also through a stream. And as I was mentioning in the previous video, we cannot see these branches, so to speak, of the lakes or the streams. And this app helps us or allows us to have an idea of what the area looks like, the area that we can access to do the search of this rain or river artifacts. And this is an app that allows us to use different types of maps. It even has some maps regarding heights, and we can alternate. So I think that it's a very complete app. Also, on the top part, we can see the coordinates of the area you're in. You can switch them to the type of coordinates, and it can be in grades, minutes, or UTM, or a format that the user considers useful, as well as other apps that are also part of this, or tools that are also part of this app. And you can also measure distances. Once you get that information regarding where to access in order to do the search and the radius that we have identified, we go in with the law enforcement through these little boats. However, the illegal people leave just like things to have obstacles for our path, and we try to surpass them. And once we have solved things out where they leave these obstacles in order to avoid us from going in, we can find, what we're interested in finding. In this case, you can see on the video that we found a river artifact. This is a dredger, which is underneath the forest, and it's impossible to see it even using drones. And therefore, this is the moment where we actually found this dredger boat that was hidden in this stream. And obviously, we proceed with the prohibition actions. We install the explosives, and then we identify what it looks like afterwards. Another tool that we use here, or that I specifically use, is that we need to live a registry of everything we do. So we cannot just like enter a physical document on the field because it can get wet, it can fall down. So what we do is that we are enabled, in order to have some audiovisual minutes, and afterwards they are transcribed into documents once we get to the office. However, this tool that I'm showing you is Camera, which allows us to record the image, but also the data. I don't know if you can see it over here. On the image, on the lower left side, we can see the date of the recording, the time, and the coordinates that this place pertains to. And we can also see the range of error, give or take 150 meters, which is the range of error of the satellite. And this is an app that is used without having to use internet. You can use it only with your phone. And as I mentioned, this recording is really important for us so that we can leave proof, so that we can make reference to the exact location and the date and time. And we have used it several times for preventive pressure hearings, and we leave proof with a video of what we found, if we found agendas, or if we found any notes or telephones, which allow us to continue or start investigations, or even look even further of what we have, because our job is not only to destroy the illegal boat, but also to use the information that will allow us to get to the funders, to the people that are linked to this illegal activities, in this case for illegal mining. And as I mentioned, this is really important for us to record the date and the coordinates additionally to the content with a video. So this is the way in which we work with these apps. And I also think it's important to mention that as of 2 years, the Peruvian Air Force have been helping us with some air surveys, but through a plane that has an optronic camera and that does some ISR aerial surveys. And what this camera allows us to do is to do a recording like the previous apps that I just showed you. And this is a camera that is installed in the aircraft that helps us see the altitude, record the time, the date, and the coordinates, and other important data. But additionally to this, we're very interested, as I mentioned previously, we would be very interested into recording the faces of the people that are actually doing the illegal activity of environmental crime, because these are done in big distances. And it's really difficult for us as prosecutors to identify the people who are actually doing this illegal activity. So this tool can help us to improve the indictments, and we can actually identify the people that are conducting the activity. So I think that this tool would be very important, and it's currently very expensive because an aerial survey, has a cost between 20,000 to 30,000 depending on the time of flight. But based on the information that it gives us, it's really important. It would be even better if we could have the possibility of doing some sort of recording of the people's faces, as I mentioned. Here we can see on the video on the top side the Starlink antennas that I was mentioning. All dredger boats have these antennas And people are paying attention to this because apparently they have noticed that the aircraft is there. So this is with regards to using the apps that we have or that we are using here in the prosecutor's office in Loreto. And well, I want to thank you so much for your attention. And we're here if you have any questions. Thank you and blessings.
Muchas gracias,
Well,
Isabela,
thank you
por,
very much. Thank you,
el video.
Isabella, for playing the video. And well, it's very interesting the way in which Dr. Savoya was talking about the importance of a satellite monitoring, not only in order to detect and document, but also in order to implement some operations. And next, we will conclude this session. I will give the floor to my colleague, Danger Gomez. He is the head of Geospatial Information Systems and the National Forest Institute in Guatemala. And he will tell us a little bit about the way in which about the way in which they use monitoring information at INAB for control and also in terms of paying some forest incentives. So thank you so much. Go ahead, Danger. Well, thank you so much and good morning. Can we move to the next presentation, please? Well, thank you so much. Well, as the National Institute of Forest, we are in charge of having the official forest topic, and we are in charge of the forest monitoring. Next slide, please. So as an institution, this is a leader and a model in terms of the national politics and our policy forest. And the mission is to execute and promote the tools for national forest policies, making it easier to have access to forest services. So this is an official service. And as I mentioned, the Institute nationwide, we have jurisdiction and we also have the mandate to monitor all forest resources. Next slide, please. So mainly, well, the logging, which is one of the main issues, and it's not only a problem for Guatemala, but it's also a problem for several countries. And as Guatemala, we have a big wealth in terms of ecosystems and tropical forests and mangroves. And within these ecosystems, there are a lot of activities in biodiversity. And some of the areas affected, the country has some protected areas. And also as an institution, we are in charge of the forest incentive areas that we have available in order to protect the forest, as well as the environmental and social impact that it has, which contributes a lot to deforestation and the loss of the biodiversity and the use of land because it also affects the cycles of the water. And another factor that boosts the illegal logging also deals with economic situations such as corruption and the demand for wood. But as an institute, there's a nationwide law, which is a law that was created in 1996, where they created the National Forest Institute, which has the mandate of protecting forest resources. And that's why we are working, and as a backup, we have the forest law. We work based on the mandate at national level. And our main objective as the coordinators of the Geographic Information System coordinators, we have the mandate to generate, to process and systematize some geospatial tools that can help us to optimize the information both on the field in an effective and timely way in order to generate databases in real time. And these are activities at the country level. as well as the monitoring and issuing alerts through these systems in real time regarding the status of the national forest coverage in the country. This is one of our objectives. And as a country, we are located in Central America. Next slide, please. Just click again. There we go. So we are located in the center of the American continent, and geographically we have a location where we have several geosystems. We have a dry forest, and we also have mangroves. And all of this forest area that we have nationwide is one of the main focuses that we need to center on for the forest monitoring. And as the National Forest Institute, we mainly have the activities of the sustainable management forest and the preservation of the forests. We have over 80,000 georeference polygons and areas to protect, and we mainly focus on the monitoring of these areas, where we have a database and we can provide follow-up nationwide. So within all of the forest management, we have different areas to manage. Here in this graph, nationwide, we can see at all of the georeference polygons. And if we go a little bit lower on the scale, we can take a look at all of the georeferenced areas in the forest and the different types of ecosystems. Can we just click again on the image? Thank you. And here we can see the polygons within the incentives and the forest that we have to protect. And mainly as an institution, and we are in charge of the satellite monitoring by having real-time alerts. So we have connected the Global Forest Watch databases with deforestation alerts integrated through some automated alerts as well as some programmed ones that are executed on a daily basis, because within these platforms, every time we have new information, so we process it through some models. And also some geographic information where we can envision some processes which we execute in the central. And we do the procedure in order to disseminate it. In this case, we start with the information and the deforestation alerts. We screen the information within the data. We do a crossing of the information in the municipalities. In the forest protection, we check where these polygons are located, and we generate the reports in different types of formats so that they can be seen. And we also identify the critical areas so that we can prioritize the monitoring. Next slide, please. In this process, we have also started to work on some protocol in order to detect the deforestation alerts within the areas that have the incentives. And in these areas, we pay people, we pay the owners of these areas, so they can protect the entire forest, and in other modalities that it can also do a forest management. These areas are controlled and are monitored through some management plans, and the protocol starts within the satellite monitoring that we have for the alerts. We screen all of these projects. We have a list of the projects, and then we publish a dashboard where we can see the images in the specific date. All of this information is transferred regionally and sub-regionally, and we assign people to go to verify on the field if these alerts are true or not. Next slide, please. So when the technicians go to the field, they confirm the logging. If it's an illegal logging, then they may even cancel the project and the payment the year afterwards, or maintaining the project if there's really a real justification. Or they also have actions through a report, and this is reported at the regional level as well as the national level. We provide a follow-up on a monthly basis and every quarter so that we can monitor all the incentives. So all of these areas have been monitored for their systems. Next slide, please. Here we can see the way in which we monitor through these images. We use satellite images that have a high resolution, and we have over 80,000 polygons with these alerts. Nationwide, the technical people that see this information have access to these images where they can verify the logging, and they can go and verify on the field. So this is an example also where we can see that this is the polygon area, which is the entire area that is marked with black, and the alerts that are shown on red. This is an example of an incentive where we have the entire forest protected. So there are some specific measures, but this is one from December of 2023. Next slide, please. And through the alerts, these are alerts where we start identifying these logging areas. Next slide, please. Where we can also envision the process of how each of the areas has been changing throughout the years. This is an image from 2024, and we can also identify where the logging happened. So that's within the incentives. This is another image. This is an image from 2023, where we can also see the alerts, how they start showing up every week. Next slide, please. And all of this information is sent to the regions so that they can verify this. This is an image from July of 2024. Next slide, please. And this is another clear example of a protected area. This is also within the incentives. And we can also, next slide, please. We can also see the alerts near the incentives area, where there are also some smaller areas. And this is another example of a protected area with other images from the year 2020. Next slide, please. And here we can take a look at the change and the alerts with the images. Next slide, please. And well, since the institution also has the modality for forest management, this is a license where they identified some alerts. And once we verified it on the field, we got these areas that were completely legal with their management plans. And it was verified that this area was registered in the institution. And they had their cycle for cutting or logging, and they corresponded to the alerts, but this is completely legal for the forest management. And we can also see with the planet images. Next slide, please. And this totally corresponded to the specific dates that the management plan included. So we also verified the follow-up of the way in which they leveraged the wood or the timber, and they actually reforested in those areas the year afterwards. But we specifically highlight this case because it was verified and it was identified that this was a legal logging that was completely documented. And this is another example outside of the incentives area. We also do these alerts and we send them to the different institutions that we're coordinating in the country. This is an image from January of 2026, where we identified the first alerts of the year 2026, and this one's from March. So within a few days, we can identify this coverage changes specifically for this year, for instance. We have documented all of this through a platform and through a dashboard where we use automated tools with the licensing of ArcGIS Enterprise and also processing with Artist Pro and Python. And we use the programs, and this platforms helps us visualize the specific date of the alert, where we can actually disseminate the alert for each incentive forest and see what is the area, what incentive is prioritized within this alerts. And we can send this information, or well, the regionals have access to this and it's fully documented in terms of where the information is coming from. And besides the illegal logging alerts, we also have a real-time monitoring fire system where we see the hotspots. And we also connect with the data from from NASA. And we also have some apps where we also alert about the fires. We process information about the fires that have been solved. And we also analyze some satellite images, such as fire scars. And we have documented all of this through platforms and dashboards where we can identify on real time the monitoring of the fires as well as the hotspots through images and maps and information, where we can download a lot of real-time information, as well as the monitoring of how many fires are active nationwide in the country, how many of them have already put off, and what is the area affected, what is the area of forest and without a forest, and all of this is documented through a geo-reference point and an image. And we also use apps like Survey 123 in order to collect the information within the incentives as well. Yeah, Danger, I just wanted to mention that we have 1 minute left. Yes. And well, to conclude, all of this is fully automated, and we also have it through these tools, and we disseminate it through our platforms in the institution, where we can also identify them. Next slide, please. Well, there's a team of us of 6 people, and we are currently growing the team so that we can keep working on the forest monitoring. And well, we're here in case you have any questions. So thank you so much for your time and for the space. Well, thank you so much, Danger, and I apologize for rushing you. But now I would like to give the floor to Luke so that he can wrap us up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you, Danger, and all of our speakers for sharing their insights today. I'm sorry that we're out of time, but we're going to have to end it there. We've had a lot of questions about how to use and access Global Forest Watch. We are organizing a training about that, so if you'd like to take part, please do respond to the webinar feedback form that we're going to be receiving soon, and we'll take it from there. And I'd also like to say a special thank you to Isabel Barriga for Global Forest Watch, who produced today's session, and also to our interpreters. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. Goodbye.